We're talking actors and directors who put on the shows.
We're talking playwrights and designers who you'll want to know.
From the very first rehearsal to the final curtain call.
We might be off Broadway, but we're talking about it all.
'Cause we're two local gals
With global pals, it's everything, everything, everything theater.
with Benita.
And Ellen. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Everything Theater Podcast, the podcast where we talk about
Everything theater. Hi there, gang. And we're going to have a real interesting, well, we always have interesting conversations. This one's especially interesting. I'm Benita Zahn.
And I'm Ellen Cribbs.
And welcome aboard. And we have a playwright with us today, and it's Liz Ostler. And she comes by way of Salt Lake City, Utah, has been in Brooklyn. She shared for 20 some odd years now, but she's got to come to Albany.
Exactly right.
Been near, but she crafted a play about her sister who lost her life in jail. She was only 37 years old, and nobody responded to her cries and her pleas for help. And so that's what the show's about. You also are the founder and director of the Communal Theater Company,
Yes.
which is in the city as well. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I've enjoyed your podcast, and it's a real pleasure to be able to talk to you.
We love having you with us.
Thank you.
Liz, first off, give us a little bit of background about the Communal Theater Company. Since when did you when was it founded? I know it exists to create, as you say, spaces of healing, connection, and communion through the art of theater.
Yeah. Thank you for asking. It's a new theater. So we established last year. So we're about 18 months old. So this is our first full season. Last year was primarily focused on developing SisterPlay, the play I wrote about Lisa. And so this is our first season that we're going into. So we're really excited about that. And, when I was thinking, I've been in the city, like you said, for over 20 years. I've been making theater for over 30 years. And when I thought about establishing a theater, I was like, does New York City really need another theater company? And I decided it did. And the reason is because I wanted to tell the stories I wanted to tell, but more specifically in the way in which I wanted to tell them. And so with communal theater, at the heart of what we're doing is we center the relationship between the theater makers and the audience. What are the things that make a theater experience different than any other art form or way of engaging? And it is that moment, this ephemeral moment when we bring people together, and largely strangers, and we tell a story that has the ability to have a reciprocity exchange of thoughts and energy that can promote a sense of connection and communion. And so that's why it's called communal theater, because it's about really focusing in on ways to have that be a type of communion.
And you clearly have touched a nerve. I mean, if you take a look at your supporters, your sponsors, the list is very long. In the town, you said, gee, do they need another theater? Well, obviously, people are buying into and they believe in what you are
Thank
presenting.
you. Yes, so grateful for our donors. Yes. And we're always open to more. So if this, resonates with anyone, please reach out.
We'll get into the
thank
heart of your show, but you're performing at the Siggy Theater at the Flea.
Yes. So the Flea has been around for many years here in the city. It's off Broadway. It's down in Tribeca, and they have a long history of creating theater, supporting theater that is mission driven, that is conscientious of social change and issues, and experimental theater. So the Flea was a great partnership ideologically for us. And then the Siggy Theater is their smaller theater. The house is 46, so it's a tiny little space. And for a play like SisterPlay, that was an ideal setting because it's such an intimate show and again, we're centering that audience and theater maker relationship, that it seems to be like an ideal space for us. So we're really excited to be partnering with them on this.
How long ago did you lose your sister?
I lost my sister in 2016. So this marks the 10-year anniversary. And so that's why I felt very strongly about having the show produced either here in New York or Salt Lake this year. I'm going to do it in both. And so it ended up New York City made the most sense this year. And then we'll do it in Salt Lake City next year.
Should point out you'll be presenting it September 1 through 13.
Yes.
At the Siggy Theater at the Flea. So, okay, now take us through the process of losing your sister and now, writing about her in a play form.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, so my sister Lisa is the sister just below me. So I'm the oldest of four, and she's the one that made me a sister. And we are 18 months apart. And so it was all things, right? So at times we were super close and other times not, particularly in high school, we fought a lot. But in adulthood, we did get really close. And Lisa had experienced a lot of trauma throughout her life. And in response to that, she did develop some addiction. So it started with alcohol and then led to drug abuse. And so most of her adult life, she was in and out of addiction. And when you love someone in addiction, you're always worried that you're going to get a call. And you don't know which call it's going to be, either that they have passed away or that they are sober now. And but you always fear the one that they didn't survive this round of addiction. And I was at a prison reform conference when I got the call that Lisa, and the call was from my mom. And she said, Lisa was found, Lisa's been in jail. And that wasn't necessarily surprising. She'd been in and out of jail a few times due to drug-related charges. And so, and often actually when we found out that she was in jail, we would sometimes have a sigh of relief because we'd know where she was and we'd know that she, at least the basic needs were being met. So we thought, and then, and that this might also lead to a period of sobriety. You know, she detoxed in the jail. And so, so she was like, Lisa was in jail, in the Salt Lake County jail, and they found her unconscious in her cell. Her heart has stopped. They were able to revive it. She's now in the hospital, in ICU unit, and we just don't know. And Lisa ended up passing away later that night. And so that's all we knew at the time. But then my dad is a former medical examiner. And so he immediately went into medical examiner mode. And what we learned is that she had been suffering from a perforated ulcer when she was arrested. And she kept asking for medical treatment and care and help, pleading for it. And they were not listening. They wouldn't give her they saw her as an addict. They asked her if she was detoxing. She said yes. And they're like, well, you just detox then. And so really, and then the other women that were in the jail with her, the other detainees were seeing this and they were also saying, hey, this woman isn't okay. And that's not detoxing. This is something else. Like this woman isn't going to survive. Like she's not okay. And they were right. So she did actually die in her cell. They were able to get her heart started, but she never regained consciousness.
The sepsis that took her life.
So actually, she didn't quite get to sepsis because the ulcer, she ended up getting peritonitis, which is so almost sepsis. So, but actually because of that, and she was in such excruciating pain, she wasn't eating or drinking. And so her heart stopped because she wasn't from dehydration. So she didn't live long enough to go sepsis, but she was on her way to be. Mm-hmm.
Was there a lawsuit?
Yes, there was. So my family filed a wrongful death case, and the hope was to bring about some systemic changes in the Utah jails and prison system, particularly around how they treat people with medical concerns and how to address that. And so there was a lot of advocating for that. And the attorney that we had hired His name's Rocky Anderson. He does a lot of advocacy work in this space. And so he was like, we've got to get these changes. But they have money to spend when you're, bringing a lawsuit against the state or the city or the county in this case. And so they just waited us out. And so eventually we ended up settling without any real changes. And that was hard for us, but then also helped inspire me to write this play. I was like, no, and talking with Rocky Anderson about what other changes can happen and how can I be part of this change? Like, we can't let this stand. And, maybe if people really knew how incarcerated individuals were being treated, then maybe there would be a call for change. And so that's part of the purpose of this play, is that it is, as much as it is a memory play of Lisa, it is also a advocacy play. And the other thing I'll say is, because Lisa's not an isolated incident, it is a systemic problem. And in fact, the year Lisa died, 24 other people died in that jail.
And it's not only that jail. I mean, if anybody follows New York City news, as you well know, Rikers Island. The prison at Rikers Island, there have been, I think, 2 or 3 deaths in the last couple of weeks, adding on to other deaths. So this is, what you're talking about is very important for the community at large to hear. But Liz, do you feel that a lot of people, they'll listen, but they go, well, they deserved it. They were criminals.
Yes, there is. I think, yes, when you're talking about when you don't have the human attached to it, it's easy to talk about, right? When you see a behavior or a caricature of a person, or you just know little bits of people, then it's easy to be like, oh, well, they deserved it. And in fact, that was what we learned from some of the discovery documents in the depositions, that was the frame of mind of the correction officers. And in the Salt Lake County Jail, it is the corrections officer who does not have any medical training that is deciding whether or not somebody really needs medical care. Like, there's a medical, emergency button, but the corrections officer has all the control in that space. And they were just like, yeah. And there's at one point, and this made it into the play, where the women are saying, hey, she's not okay. And her response was, well, you shouldn't do drugs. Right? And so there is this sense. But the thing is that these are people who have families that have, and there's reasons why, that they're found themselves in this situation, and that I think that we do ourselves a real disservice as a society when we only view this is a way of punishing people or to holding people accountable or saying that they deserved it. We actually lose a part of our own humanity when we do that.
Ellen, we got to get her up here and hook her up with Michael Kennedy.
Yes, 100%.
Who's got a theater company, Creative Action. You know me in names.
Creative Action Unlimited, yeah.
Oh, I got it.
Wow, yes.
Yeah, you two have to talk. You can tell that I'm the old reporter and the questions I asked, but I'm going to shush for a minute because we still have a lot of theater to talk about. I'll turn it over to Ellen.
Yeah, well, I was curious in then developing the play. Have you written plays before this, or is this your first play that you wrote?
But not full-length plays. So I've done devised work with groups and done full-length plays that way. And I've done smaller adaptations of pieces and written smaller pieces. But this was the first time for a full-length play that I wrote.
So talk us through the process of writing this piece that is so personal to you, autobiographical, and about someone you love dearly, and how you developed it over all these years.
Yeah, so when Lisa died, I was devastated, and it changed me, fundamentally on a cellular level, changed me. And I knew that there was going to be art, and then that was going to be part of my healing. And I honestly, at the time, thought it would be pretty soon. But I had a friend who's a playwright and a poet, and she had I'd written a book of poetry about her brother's death. And I was talking to her, and she said, "There is art here. You're right, but give it time." And so that helped take some of the pressure off of me to do it, to just trust. And knew I knew there was a play in it. I knew there was a play, and I just didn't know how to get into the play and exactly what it was going to look like. And I knew it was going to be an advocacy play. Like, I knew it was going to center around the jail. But the idea of casting somebody and directing somebody as my sister was so painful that I was like, I don't know how I could do that. Like, I don't know how. So I largely just sat with it. And I have a former theater teacher, and she would always say, just live in the question. Just live in the question. And so I lived with that question of like, what is this play going to be? What is it going to look like? And so I would often, like, seeing theater. I mean, you're a theater artist, you know, like, I could not see theater and then it's almost like I have a folder in my brain where I'm like, ooh, that's nice. If I do a show, I might steal that and I put it away. And so I would see different things. I'd be like, ooh, I wonder if that has a place in my play. So I was like collecting things, but nothing was really coming together just yet. And about 5 years-ish ago, and it was after talking to the attorney about the case and what was happening, that I had this flash in my brain of like this scene. And it was in the jail, and Lisa was a Bunraku puppet. And I am a puppet builder, director, and Bunraku is one of the styles that I do. So that was a natural extension. And then I thought, oh, this is how I can get into the play. This is interesting. What if Lisa is a puppet? What if nobody else around her is a puppet? What does that mean? What does that do? And because it is about telling our story, but I'm also an artist. So is that also interesting to me as an artist? And so I was, holding and thinking about that for a while. And then what kept getting in my way is that up until a year ago, I could have talked to you about losing a sister. I could talk to you about grief, but how Lisa died was off the table. I could not talk to you about that. It was too painful. And so, like, there's the way in which I was able just now to tell you the events in the jail, I would not have been able to do that. It would have been too hard. And so through therapy, and I attended a grief support group that's hosted by this wonderful organization, COPE, here in New York. And it's a sibling grief group. And so spending time with them, going, like I said, in therapy. And then I was like, okay, I feel like I now have the capacity and the tools to jump into this and address this. And so I told the attorney my idea, and he's like, I love this, let's do it. And he gave me a hard drive with all of the court documents on it. And so last January, I know I see your eyes, the reporter, and you're like, right, like, yeah, right, that and I'm also a researcher. And so I was like, I'm gonna read every document. And the sister and artist in me was like, maybe not every document, maybe not, maybe there's some things that I actually don't want to know and don't want to see. And my mom was heavily involved in the wrongful death case. And she's like, there's images that you don't want to see, and so she's like, you'll just never be able to unsee it. And so I read through all depositions and other documents. But when I started in January, it was really hard. I found myself going through them and starting to piece together, because I also didn't know what the story was. I was going to let the play tell me what it was. I just knew it was going to cover the events of the jail. What that looked like and meant, I didn't know. And there was I remember one moment in particular. Had been reading through the depositions, and particularly the detainees that they had interviewed, because I had always thought Lisa had been so alone. And she was in a way alone, but I didn't know how much these other women had advocated for her. And there's so much appreciation, love that she was seen and heard by someone. Those that were in authority and had the power to help her weren't, but other people were trying to rally around her. And I was so moved by it, but it was so painful that I actually started to feel physically sick. And I shut my computer and I was like, Self, what are you doing? Like, you don't have to do this. You don't have to write this play. You don't have to do any of this. Just like, and a wiser part of me just said, whatever you choose, it's okay. You can write the play and not produce it. You cannot write the play. You can do like whatever this looks like, it's fine. Like, and that really helped like take some of the pressure off. And so I just like walked away from the project. And the next morning, as I was waking up, and that's usually where I get a lot of my ideas is like as I'm coming out of sleep, I keep a computer when I'm writing near me so I can like grab it and get going. As I woke up, the scene that I had just read the day before that made me physically ill, I started to see it in my brain about how it worked. And I was like, oh, okay, let's do it. And I just started writing. And so I just continued that process. And what I discovered in it is at first I did just think it was going to be the events of the play, of the jail. And then I learned that, we need to give more context to Lisa. So I started writing flashbacks to help the audience understand how we got there and get to know Lisa some.
Mhm.
And then as I continued to write, I was like, oh no, I'm a character in the play. I didn't know I was in the play. And then so I started writing. So there's now three spines that are interwoven. We have the past, flashbacks, the events of the jail, which is like the core spine. And then there's older sister, who is a contemporary voice that's talking about grief and trying to figure these things out. That is a version of me. And so it took me, once I got started, it took me about 6 weeks to write it. Then was readings and rewrites, but 6 weeks.
You really plowed through that. It was as if it was delivered whole in many ways.
Yes, it was. Like once, I held it for almost 10 years. Well, I guess 9 years at that point. But once I went. I was like, I'm in this.
I imagine you had readers.
I did. So after I got that first draft done, and there were definitely people that were, that I was bouncing ideas off of, that I was showing bits to. And then when I got that first draft, some theater makers that I love and trust, I invited to just read it to me, is where I started, so I could hear what I wrote. And they were so lovely and supportive. And even at that time, I was like, hey, I'm going to give us an extra half hour on the time that it's going to take to read this play. We may use it, we may not, because I don't know if I'm going to be in a place to hear feedback. So let's just read it, right? And see, because this is a hard, I've been creating theater for 30 years, but I've never done something this close. And I know the vulnerability of like new work. Like I've put new work out there, but like on this level, I'm always like, but it was so lovely and so supportive that they gave me I was ready for feedback. They gave it, I took it. And then I took the play to Utah and rallied some actors there to do a reading and invited my family and the attorney to see. They knew I was doing it, but I needed them to know what I was doing, particularly Lisa's kids, before I got too far in the process. I didn't want to get to like this stage or opening night and have them see it and have, and not know what their responses were going to be to it. And so, because that's the other thing that's hard, right? Is that part of their lives are now on this stage and how they would feel about that. And they were so supportive and gave me some good feedback. Largely very supportive, just some clarifying things. There was a moment where I have a scene where my mother and my sister see it very differently. And that was the only time that there was like, that might not be accurate. And so, but just talked out with them why I made the choices I did and where I landed. They were both like, yeah, we see where you landed there.
But it's still play,
I still play.
And that's what I was saying. It must be, I know I actually wrote a play about my life 10 years ago, going through a very difficult time and like separating the storyteller from myself is it's a very hard thing to navigate. And like
Yeah,
what
what
trauma
was
do you want to live in, and what do you want to adjust to make the story more cohesive and more understandable? It's hard.
Yeah, what were some of the key things you learned through that? The advice you give me?
It's interesting because I haven't touched it for 8 years. And I keep
Okay.
saying every year, I'm like, I'll go back to it. I'm going to go back to it. And so I think I'm like in that process that you were like a couple, 2 or 3 years
Okay.
ago of like, where do I go with this? And so, but yeah, but I think for me, putting on the directorial hat and the audience
Mhm.
hat and saying, I know this is the way the story happened, but is it clear to an audience now? Like I was there, so I know it makes sense the way I wrote it. However, from an outsider, does this character come clear? Do their motives make sense? Is this dialogue believable and understandable?
Yeah. Yeah. And there, I really appreciate that. And because I've been thinking a lot about that, about how the different hats can help in the process, because I'm also directing it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, right. So like, it's a lot of me, and I have, a mentor who, Karen Eisenberg, who I was talking to about this process in December. And she said, she runs the Pioneer Theater in Salt Lake City, which is a regional house in Salt Lake City. And she said, her advice was have somebody you trust that's very close to you, but is not attached to the show, that will
Mm-hmm.
come in at key moments to watch the show and give you feedback. And that they trust, so that they know that they can be right, that you can hear what they're saying. Because she's like, you're going to get lost in the weeds. Because we all get lost in the weeds. Like, that's just part of the process. But where this one is so close to me, that she's like, you need somebody. And so I've been able to identify 2 people throughout the process to pop in and be like, you've lost your way, or no, you haven't, or right, like this makes sense to you because you're so far in it, but to us, it doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
How many characters?
So there are over 20, but they're played by 6 players. So 6 players play, and then there's 3 puppeteers, and one of the puppeteers' voice is Lisa. So they're playing multiple parts, except for the character of older sister. That player only plays older sister, but everyone else has multiple parts. And one actor, I think, has like 6 parts.
What are
So,
your, if everything you dreamed could happen, what are your
yeah.
hopes for this play?
Oh, so there's a couple ways I want to answer that. One is artistically, and just like the play itself as a play, is that it would have, my hopes for the play, that it would have a strong audience, that people would come and really see it and feel it. We're going to do a lot of talkbacks so that we can engage in conversation. And another idea we're having is a digital advocacy packet that people can access through a QR code, so that once they experience the show, that they would know what actions, if they felt prompted, they could take. And so that would be part of that. And I think too that it would find people who are struggling in grief, people who have struggled with addiction, or love people in addiction, or have been touched by the justice system, that they would know that they're not alone, that they would hopefully see part of a story that because there's a lot of shame attached to those things. Even grief has some With people being like, aren't you over it yet? Kind of feeling that there's a lot that I hope that those who are in it, that they would, because we know from Brene Brown, right, that shame needs secrecy and silence in order that by telling these stories, that hopefully somebody could let go of some of that shame, that would expand people's compassion and understanding of incarcerated individuals, and understand that they are a vulnerable population, and that we, as the taxpayers and as voters and citizens, that that we actually have a say in how they're treated, and that if we have a collective voice, that we could look at maybe some more effective ways, and by effective meaning more compassionate ways, more restorative justice type ways of holding people accountable, but not with the focus on punishment. That the play could do that. That the play could start those conversations. That the play itself could have a full life, right? Like a nice run in New York City, and a nice run in Salt Lake City, where it can be part of these communities and conversations.
Liz, is it a one act? Is it is it two acts? What's the running time?
It's structured as it's running right now about 115 minutes, or not quite 2 hours. I'm trying to get it lower, no intermission. So it is just a run through.
This all makes me think, Benita, is that in all our time, we haven't had a conversation about drama therapy. And not that this is necessarily drama therapy, but it is in a way, and I think, to speak of what you're saying, Liz, of people watching the show and connecting, and, maybe they have someone in their lives, or, that's going through something similar, or maybe they have never thought about this before, and it's opening their eyes to something they never even considered, and how powerful that is. And that's why we do that, right? This is why we love theater, because it has so much power.
For sure. Did either of you see Hamnet, the movie?
Yeah.
Okay, it really isn't a spoiler, but let's just say spoiler, because it's about, right, Shakespeare's wife and the losing of a child that inspired the writing of Hamlet. So I'm like, if you don't know that yet, not spoiling. But there's a scene at the end when Agnes is right. I can't remember now.
Yeah, Anne Hathaway, but they call her Agnes. Yeah.
Yeah, Agnes is seeing the play, Hamlet, and watching, her husband's inspiration around a story, right, that she knows is inspired by her son, and then watching how it is affecting the people around her, that so moved me, and it touched so much about what I'm trying to do with SisterPlay, that it was this kind of like surreal moment of I'm watching a film of a woman watching a play. I'm thinking about this play that I'm producing and directing, of that same kind of thing, about like that moment when you feel something and you look at the people around you, and again, many of them strangers, and you're like, oh, you're feeling something too. I'm not alone.
Yeah.
It's so powerful and so healing.
Yeah.
In essence, theater is drama therapy all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In essence. Sometimes just a little more bold.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with you, Benita. And I would say even the most frivolous, silly, funny show is itself, right? Like bringing just joy and laughter.
Yeah.
Is also so important. Like I'm right now in this play on the other end of the spectrum. It's like, serious whatever, and that is. But I'm here for all of it, and please bring on the silly and the whatever, because we need that as much in seeking to heal our wounds as we do need to look at a wound and spend time with it.
Well, all the best to you.
Thank
Again,
you.
the show will be on the 1st through the 13th in the city at the Siggy Theater at the Flea, way downtown. But
Yes,
it's
Tribeca.
easily found. I'm sorry, you said where?
In Tribeca.
Tribeca. A lot of good places to eat, so get down there. And stick around. You'll be there, I'm sure, for conversation after the play. And if it moves you the way I think Ellen and I probably figure it's going to, book her. Book it in.
Exactly.
And come up to Albany.
Love that. Thank you
Liz,
so much. I've really enjoyed this.
Liz, thanks so very much. All the best to you and your heart and the play.
Thank you.
And for all our listeners, thank you for listening. I'm Ellen Cribbs.
And I'm Benita Zahn. We'll see you next time.
Thank you so much for listening to the Everything Theater podcast. Special thanks goes out to Alice Grinling for our photography and Justin Friello for composing our amazing theme song. Please remember to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you want to share your thoughts or what's going on in your theater community, you can reach out to us on social media or through our email at everythingtheaterpodcast@gmail.com. Till next time, it's everything, everything, everything.